Hi, my name is Rivki Jungreis. I'm a licensed clinical social worker, a special ed consultant, and a trauma specialist who works with children, adults, and families. Dr. David Fox, Director of Crisis Intervention, Trauma and Bereavement Services for Lifeline, has asked me to address the community and to offer some parenting tips, perhaps move our children from fearful to cheerful, and craft a parenting toolbox of some sort in these trying times. And before I begin, I would like to address something that I've heard where there were colleagues and friends and people that were saying that we're all in the same boat and we're weathering the same storm. And I really want to reflect on that because I really don't think that we're all in the same boat. I think we're weathering the same storm, but we're in very, very different boats. There are children and adults who have lost their loved ones, who've had to sit shiva alone, who are not able to say goodbye to their parents, and do not know how their last days were, and they are traumatized. There are families that are desperate in need of services for their children who are special needs or on the spectrum, and their house is chaotic. There are children who cannot sleep at night, and they're worried and fearful that their parents who are frontliners keep going back into the hospitals, and they live with uncertainty and fear. And then there are children who, yes, they feel better being at home because they had social anxiety due to school and bullying issues, and some of them who had academic performances that were difficult. And yes, they have relief that they are no longer going to school, but then they worry, how will things change for them when they do go back to school? So these are all important issues, but very different boats. And I hope some of the things that I can offer here will help all children emotionally, psychologically, socially, and even academically. I'd like to break my talk into 3 different sections. One will be the mind and body connection, talking a little bit about what occurs in the brain and the body when we are triggered and when we're faced with stresses and crisis. Tips for bonding and connection with our children, different activities that might be helpful, and then some tools for tolerance and stabilization. They can be breathing exercises, different ways of calming down the nervous system. So this is a brain, and we see that it's divided into 3 parts. And the first part is the survival center, which we call the reptilian part of the brain. Then there's the emotional, the mammalian part of the brain, and then the executive center, which is the higher functioning brain. And something that I tell children is that there's a triune brain, a 3-part of the brain, and that it's an awesome alarm system. And that the reptilian part of the brain is our first reaction to anything that happens. It's a physiological reaction. We don't think. We just react. We're reactive. We either fight, run away, or freeze. We become aggressive. We get silent, or we just don't react at all. And that's what we see when we have a child in a temper tantrum. They don't hear you. There's no point in going to the higher part of the brain, which is logic, because they're actually down here in survival. If you meet a crocodile on the riverbank, they're not going to be interested in having a conversation with you. They want to rip your head off or eat you. Similarly to a child in a temper tantrum, there's no point in reasoning. So there's the emotional brain and the thinking brain. And these are good reasons to know about our brain, because when something occurs and there's like a big fight and a big crisis, our nervous system becomes activated. We're triggered off and we're set off in ways that we may do things that we regret. And when we perceive threat, real or imagined, we automatically go into that yelling, that fighting, that flighting or flee system. And that's very important for us to know, because once we recognize our triggers, we can help with containment and different boundaries that our children really need. So what do we do when our alarm does go on and we are triggered and the clouds come around us and cover the sun of me? Do we yell to get our point across? Do we ignore inappropriate behaviors and have silent treatment? Do we become critical? What is it that actually occurs? And the important thing to recognize in these situations is that how we communicate with our children has a profound impact on how they develop. Our ability to communicate effectively and create security in our children is really dependent on how we learn our triggers and also look at how we were parented. And some of the examples of this might look like maybe one of your parents communicated by yelling and explosive reactions. Do you find that you mimic that behavior when you get frustrated and you start to yell? Or do you feel that you give in to the demands of your children because you want to avoid that confrontation? You abhor confrontation, you've walked on eggshells your whole life, and you don't want to hear any screaming. Perhaps you're a mother who was a child who took care of siblings all her young childhood, and now that you're quarantined, you're feeling strangled and cooped up with clinging children, and you're feeling very smothered and you just want to run. So knowing these stressors are important so that you can kind of look at how to deal in a different way and think about how do you act and think and feel when the sun is in me. You know, I can be loving and nurturing. And the main idea is to recognize that we need to be the bigger, stronger, and wiser person so that a child can feel safe. And you could set boundaries for the children. So what's really, really important is just our children look to us, you know, like we look to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, you know, and to find Amunah and safety and know that we're going to be all right. That is what we are to our children. And children need to see that we're staying calm and we're okay with things that go wrong and that we roll up our sleeves and figure out how to solve a problem. And one of the main things that I found, you know, I asked my daughter-in-laws and different colleagues and different mothers, and I asked, what's the main, you know, thing that is a game changer for you in your house and how your children react? And it was very interesting. There are times that you feel like, you know, that lower part, I can't even move, and you're in hypoarousal, or when you're explosive and hyperarousal, and this is the middle window tolerance, you know, optimal tolerance is what we want to be in. And most of the people that I've asked, they said, and I know this too, is that it really depends on your mood, how you feel when you wake up in the morning, if you've had enough self-care, if you know that you're going to be able to take a walk. Those are the things that are the game changers. Like one client told me, I decided just it's going to be messy and I'm going to have to deal with it. And once she relaxed and let go, she just was a happier mom. And that, I think, has been a very big game changer, just to recognize that your mood will affect your children's mood. You're their mirror, and what they see in you is what they feel inside. Now, one of the other things that I like to point out is that when we look at animals in the wild, we know that they all have strategies to survive. So here's the tiger and the porcupine and the skunk, and the tiger roars. And for kids, it's like their strategies where they'll say, I am so tough, do not try to hurt me or I will hurt you. Don't get close to me or I'll poke you. And children that make others feel or smell bad to protect themselves. What have I done and still do to survive and protect myself? The turtle draws into his shell. Sometimes kids put up walls around themselves and don't let anyone get too close. The bear who stays away in his cave doesn't feel safe around people. Or the ostrich who hides because they don't want to deal, think, or feel stuff that bothers them. And then there's those children that are always constantly rescuing, helping, and doing things for others so they're liked and accepted, but it becomes a burden when it's too much. And parents don't always recognize that. Those kids just want to please you so badly. And then there's those kids that just are always see me, look at me, and they're just always acting up because they need to be seen and to have that attention. But when children do this, or children do this, we don't recognize that these are the strategies of children. What we say is that they're manipulative. We say that they're lying. We say that they're acting out. They're obnoxious. They're difficult. But what I really want to point out is that just like when the skunk puts up his tail and he gets ready to spray, he senses danger, and that's his way to survive. These children are crying and clinging and temper tantruming because they feel in danger. They feel something is not right, and this is the way they react. And what we need to do is recognize that our children need to be understood. We need to have them heard, felt, and seen. If they're acting in those strategies, what's really going on? If a child doesn't want to go to sleep at night, is constantly asking to sleep in his mother's bedroom or wants his mother to sleep outside his door, what has happened? Has this been a new behavior? Has he been traumatized? Or is it just he's more fearful these days? We need to look and understand that the things that our children are doing are just strategies for them to survive. They're not regulated. They're not feeling right. So how do we do these things? Well, the first thing that children crave the most, I mean, one of the things that is so elementary, but something that we should all recognize is acknowledgement and validation. Having eye contact with your children, even going down on your knees when your children are coming in to talk to you and really looking into their eyes is such a wonderful way. One parent told me that really just listening without giving her solutions and just really having paid attention and listening to their worries without interruption or judgment was really, really very helpful. And I want you to kind of picture it as if you're coming in and you've had a hard day and you want to speak to a friend or a spouse and they're reading a newspaper or even looking at their iPhone and they go, as you're talking to them. Or if they just put down the newspaper and shut the phone and they look up and they say like, what's up? What's happening? And they look into your eyes and you get their full attention. It's a total change. It's a total game changer for how they feel that, they're giving you the message that there's someone that is worth listening to. Your small issues or big issues are really very important. So that's kind of active listening and also reflecting what they say. Don't jump in to give advice. Don't jump in to give solutions, which we're very triggered to do because we don't want to see our children hurting, but just listening is enough. And then seeking after they've, vented or spoke out their feelings, see what else they need. One of the other things that I think is so important, and I'm going to discuss it in the bonding activities, is like through positive recognition, that really can help reduce our anxiety in the children and create some effective change. Catch your children doing something good. One of the things I suggest parents to do is write a brag book. It could be just some computer paper, fold it in half, and just notice when your kids are doing something right, and at the end of the week, call it Rivki or Yankees or anybody's brag book, and just read all the different things they see that week. And then that gives them a sense of worth, a sense of self-esteem, that they were noticed and you recognized it. Even if you're upstairs folding laundry and you come down and say, I was thinking about you upstairs. Really? You had thoughts of me even when I wasn't with you? That's telling them another message as well. Through sociability and through play. Play is the number one healing treatment all over the world. Play is something to children that talk is to adults. They can play out their frustrations, their fears, their worries. You could connect through laughter and being there for that person. It's a wonderful way. And I want to stress here that it's not important for it to be the most elaborate arts and crafts or a great cooking recipe. You don't have to do all these things. And I know I'm seeing a lot of different creative ideas, but I really want to stress that it is not what you do with the child. It's that you are being with the child. It's not what you do with the child. It's that you are with the child and they have your presence. And then another thing would be just to recognize that you need to take children out and see nature, recognize the clouds, the sun, see the trees, the different trees or plants that are budding now in the spring. Make children aware of the surroundings so that they could be grateful for the small things or the big things in life. Some of the bonding activities that I like is, again, Keeping a loose structure, and I talked about having a routine and consistency for children, even if it's just around meal times. If the bedtimes are later or the mornings are later, that's okay. But that there's a routine, there's going to be a morning, there's going to be some learning, there's going to be some meal time. And we keep it loose, but we keep it structured. Sharing chores, that's unbelievable. I think now is the biggest time to learn to rely on our children and give them responsibilities. It doesn't matter what the reason is, but I heard one parent say to me, she is loving that her children she doesn't have cleaning help, and she's loving that her children have different responsibilities and keeping the house clean. And she has noticed that they are much more careful with the way they put away their things or the way they take out food, because they know they're going to be in charge of cleaning up. So it empowers children and gives them a sense of agency. One parent had tons of laundry, 10 kids in the house. She was so overwhelmed one night, and she said that she brought it to the dining room. She just brought all the laundry, and she told the children that we're going to have an activity in the morning, and everybody found their own laundry and learned how to fold. And it was wonderful. And the kids feel good, and they want to do it every week. There's something that I call Magical Island, where children draw their own island, and you can ask them what they want on this island, what are the rules of the island, what happens if someone breaks the rules, what are the activities we do on this island, and perhaps what are the food that's allowed, who's allowed to be on that island. And it just opens up a lot of discussion into how children are feeling about themselves. Draw a heart and hang up for the kids to see, tell them how much you love them, or leave occasional notes for them in their bed or anywhere around the house, so that they could discover a cute note from yourself. Some of the things to do around dinner time, we call it highlight, low light, grateful, something good that day, something hard, something to be grateful for. At the Shabbos table, when you're coming together, asking a sibling or all the siblings to say 2 nice complimentary things around the table. I do this every single Pesach and sometimes during the year. It's a wonderful way for children to see what their siblings are about, and it gives siblings a real good sense of self-worth. Asking children to come up with 3 adjectives, positive about themselves, or one thing that they want to change. Who would they invite to dinner if they could? Create a calming toolbox, one for yourselves. The parents can do one alongside with the children. Children can write what they like, we can think of maybe bubbles or a squishy ball, or things that they could do when they need a toolbox, a box that could be on the counter or somewhere for when they need to calm down. And mom could demonstrate that by doing her own toolbox. It could be a picture of a yoga instructor. It could be body lotion. It could be a tehillim. It could be anything that would help calm the parent down. And then there's wonderful things we could do, like a bucket list after COVID, different things that we want to look forward to and do. I know one of my sons, the kids were very anxious to go to Lego Land, and he measures them on the wall and tells them as they're growing what are the different amusement parks and the different rides that they may be going to after and what to look forward to. So then again, we need to know that we have to have some self-care. That's a key. If we give oxygen to ourselves, we can oxygenate our children. And be aware of the reading material. I have found so many children traumatized by things that have been left around, even if they're in those so-called Jewish magazines. Younger children pick them up and really are harboring a lot of fears. And phone conversations should be limited when you're stressed or worried and you're sharing it with a sibling. You make sure that those children are not around. Taking breaks, grounding, fun activities, look for resources. And one of the last things that I'd like to do with you before we close is a grounding exercise. And it's called the 60-second fix. And Dr. Reggie Melrose, who I trained with, has taught me this meditation, and I really like it. And I'm going to do that with you in just a minute. But before I do that, I want to do the butterfly hug. That is it's a actual exercise that's based on EMDR, and it's very calming for children. And how I tell them to do this is I ask them to cross their hands and to just tap and to talk about their worries or to say that they will be okay. I am okay. I don't have to be nervous. Hashem will protect me. I will do okay on my test. I don't have to be scared. I will be okay. My mommy and my tati are here. Hashem will protect me. I will be okay. So those are the type of things that you can help do with your children. And if you do that little butterfly hug with them and demonstrate it with them, they might feel calmer. And the research has shown that it really regulates the nervous system. Another thing to do is put your hand under one armpit and then put the other hand over your shoulder and just rock. This is something from Peter Levine, who talks about the somatic modality, recognize your body, and rocking into that hug and breathing and teaching children how to breathe through bubbles. Breathing in and out really is calming to the body. So this is last exercise is feeling your feet on the ground, taking in the support of your chair and breathing in through your nose, and have your children or yourselves visualize a beautiful, safe place. And it may not be safe, so maybe you could say a beautiful, calm place, but always notice what's happening in your body. And if you're at the beach, become aware of the sounds of the beach and the smells of the beach, and just take it in and just be there for a minute and just breathe in and out as you're at this place. And then it could be something that you just imagine that and recognize the pleasant sensations going through your body. And doing this exercise every day begins to definitely regulate the nervous system. It could just be for a minute, it could be for 2 minutes or 6 minutes. It's just a wonderful way to calm our nervous system. The last thing that I would like to end with is a thought that we can all appreciate. Hashem has given us a gift that we really need to appreciate. It's something that we've never had enough of, and it's the gift of time. What are we doing with our time? And we need to reflect about that. Most importantly are the women. Mommies, you are the heroines, and you are the foundation of the home. You instill the values and the love and the connection in your house. If you are positive, it radiates onto your children, and all that you do in these trying times is worth so much, is so important to your family, to Klal Yisrael, and most of all to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. I look forward to us all being able to connect not only emotionally, but physically, and Mir Tashem, Mashiach should be on his way. Thank you for listening.
Thank you very much for a fine presentation. This is Rabbi Dr. David Fox of Chai Lifeline's Crisis Intervention, Trauma and Bereavement Department. Please feel free at any time to access our crisis hotline at 1-855-3-CRISIS, and you may also email us at crisis@chailifeline.org. Looking forward to providing you with another installment in our ongoing series entitled Going Through It and Growing Through It.